ShopIgniter is a social e-commerce company. So we have a suite of 3 products that create a social commerce suite. It allows retailers, brands, manufacturers to sell products not only online, but in a promotional atmosphere, so a sub-site, a promotional site, and within Facebook. We complete full transactions throughout the entire platform on any one of those channels. And then we have a social promotion system that sort of wraps it all together, allowing our merchants to push out deals and incentives to social networks to activate external networks for the second level effect to bring in customers to buy that merchandise. So at an example level, like say we have an apparel company that's a brand manufacturer. They can run a private time-based sale on either distressed or exclusive merchandise within Facebook while they're running traditional e-commerce as well in both channels, and then incentivize their current network to spread deals, coupons, or just the word about that promotion. And then for everybody coming in and also the originators of those links out to social networks, they can be incentivized to get credits, promoted to different groups that have different access, that kind of stuff. And wrapped into that is a lot of game mechanics. So you can do social badging, referral incentive programs, discount group incentive programs, and everything's trackable. So there's a little bit of a competitive element to it as well. We were trying to be, or actually we were a profitable bootstrap company, and but we usually joke it's ramen profitable because we didn't really make significant amounts of money of any kind. But the competition and the landscape we were going into the industry, and they were huge billion-dollar companies. So walking into a room where we're pitching a customer, it's myself with a slide deck and a laptop, and there's 7 sales guys from the other company. Changed the landscape pretty quick. Some of our other clients took a gamble when they went with us, and luckily they bet on the right horse at the time for where we've taken them now with their sales. But we needed assistance, and the best way to get that was with going after incredibly smart money in the industry. So when we found out Madrona was interested in us, we definitely went after them because they were sort of on our target of if we wanted to get investment, they would be that company. They've got an amazing pedigree and backing into e-commerce companies, the biggest one being Amazon.com. So they were the first investment into Amazon. And Tom Alberg, who is on the board of Amazon, is also on our board. And he's just a wealth of knowledge of what an e-commerce company can do, but also how we can grow in a very crowded marketplace by being very disruptive with a product. So yeah, money helps for sure, but it's also the knowledge behind the money that's the most important. Yeah, so fast growth is something that's we've definitely experienced, and you don't really feel it until you look back and realize that 9 months ago the company was still just 4 people, and now we're 21, I believe, and we still have open recs out there for 4 more people. We're hoping to hire before the year end, so it's been very, like, our hair is on fire here. It's incredible, but the growth that we've experienced has been sort of reaction also to what the market's doing, but also knowing that where we have to be and where we want to be next year, we're ready for it. Because one thing that I've seen a few companies hurt themselves is where they're not hiring against what they think the demand's going to be based on what's happening with the market, and when it happens, they're just not ready, and they fail because they're too successful. And I was part of a startup years ago that actually had that problem, where the product was good, the marketing message was good, the founders didn't think it was going to take off like it did, and it exploded, and ultimately customers got upset and left when they could have just had a very, very good company on their hands. So yeah, growth is great to experience, but it also kind of opens up a new abyss, because you have to plan for what's going to happen after that, and if you could plan wrong on either side. So it's kind of finding that middle ground. Because of course you could overhire as well, but we've not done either yet. So we're still in the middle, and it's been a good experience. Well, I don't want to go back too far on that question, but I think the biggest hurdles for us when we were starting out literally was just getting the first couple clients out the door. For I think for any startup, having sort of the banner client, the case study, we can go back to, look, it works. That we can actually sell this as a product because it's working for somebody, and it was our largest hurdle. We were a bootstrapped company at the start, so for us, the secondary hurdle to that was, making sure everybody's bills were paid and we can sell enough to keep going. As we were kind of fleshing out our business plan, and figuring out how to market our product, the biggest hurdle we really ran into were vendor relationships. Our software is an interesting space to where it's not going to be the only thing running the show. So we have to interface with other like inventory management systems or accounting systems, commonly referred to as ERP systems, even CRM stuff. So when we were originally talking about the software, we didn't have any of those vendor relationships created. So the sales process was not very difficult because we had to come in as sort of the new kid on the block. And a lot of the companies that we were competing with were very, very large, upwards of $1 billion interests. So walking into sales conversations, we either had to win on price or innovation. And luckily the system and the way it was built originally won on one or the other, and now we won both. So it was a big hurdle. It's becoming smaller, maybe not just a bump, but we're still new kids on the block. E-commerce is one of the oldest industries online. So it's been an interesting battle. I'm sure we'll run into more hurdles. It's being a startup, but hopefully we can react like we have in the past to jump them and solve the problems we run into. That's a great question for us because it actually, the trip up that we experienced really started the product in the way it is now. As we were starting the company, the co-founders and I built the first version of our software. And it was the thing that we were selling. And its claim to fame was that we interfaced to a particular piece of software that stores would run internally that would push product information online in a very organized, very automatic manner. And the vendor that we dealt with was starting to gain traction as well, but they were still kind of a startup, so we were kind of lockstep in what they were doing. And when we were really gaining a lot of steam, they turned around and started looking to us as a competitor to their product. And I think the biggest sort of trip up was that we didn't have the vendor relationship established. Like there was no partnership contracts in place or no who does what kind of scenario, because we just didn't know at the time. Our hair was on fire trying to build software. We didn't think about the legality of actually having a partnership in place. And so they literally pulled the plug and they went to a closed source atmosphere, so we could no longer do what we needed to do to advance the current customer base that we had. And there was literally a day where Dan Warner and Jason Glover and I sat down on a whiteboard and planned out what the version 2 of the software was going to be, which was ShopIgniter ultimately. In that same meeting, 2 people of our company left. They were very scared of what could happen to the future of it, and that's when we just buckled down and built it. So that was definitely one of the biggest trip-ups, and something that the companies that talk to me now, founders that I run into, is make sure that everything's on paper, even with your co-founders. Don't do anything on a handshake, because it will come back. It's just a matter of time. Wow, I would say from a resource point of view, in Portland especially, there's now a lot of groups that are helping startups. This one actually being one of them that started now. But I would say that the city, like PDC, Portland 10, has been a really good resource for us, and has made introductions really for us to meet not only our current CEO, who we met prior to our funding and brought into the company, to ultimately the channels that got us to the investment that happened to our company. PDC's helped us on helping get data to the building that we're sitting in, so we can actually make it a centralized resource to expand and grow in. And through that, there's now the tech companies in the building. So we've got another great startup on the 5th floor of this building, just Puppet, and then a few others. And it's getting help to the degree that we did from the city, to me, is almost unheard of. here from New York, and any help from the city just didn't exist, mainly because they were overwhelmed with other stuff, but also the entrepreneurial spirit is not there like it is here in Portland. And in the 3 years that I've been doing through the e-commerce play with ShopIgniter, I've seen it grow exponentially year over year. So now there's very large community events where the founders of other companies that are well established, like Tripwire and Jive, are going to those events to help people give just information-wise, be there for a Q&A resource, if anything, or an intro resource to say, hey, you're having a staffing problem in marketing. I know a guy who helped us out when we were at your level. Here's his card. Talk to him. Those sort of introductions are almost impossible to get in like a Silicon Valley atmosphere or in a New York atmosphere without paying, say, $1,000 plate, to go to some strange dinner. Here, they're just, go to a startup's office that's, on the path or they're funded. There's a kegerator in back, grab a beer, and by the way, there's 7 founders that are running now $100 million companies. You might want to talk to them. And to see that happen is just phenomenal. And a lot of that, I think, has to deal with the sort of open embrace that not only the city and the government of the city, but companies like PDC, organizations like Portland 10 are really pushing everybody to do that. So I'd say the resources, those helped us significantly. That's a great question. Being a venture-backed company, we're a rapid growth company. When people look at companies that are on the growth stage, it's usually 5 to 10%, where our goal is to grow 300 to 500% per year over the next couple of years. So the abyss really is, as we're learning how to scale the company, the sales process, the product, it's how do we get to those numbers? And internally, we feel we've got a great handle on it, and definitely on the product. The product is doing extremely well in the marketplace, but there is always the abyss as we move up market of how that's going to change or how competitors are going to come out, sort of the woodwork. Because any company, any startup, as they get to the stage, you always have to be worried about competition. But in spaces that we're in, they move so fast that you have to stay on top of it. And that's why our team and a whole company-wide is very engineering focused. Almost half of our company is dedicated just to the engineering of the product. Abyss-wise, I think, is getting through the static, really, of everything that's out there. For our particular case, we're lumped into a social commerce kind of bucket. And so analysts now are looking at companies that just do product reviews, companies that just do maybe achievement badging. They're putting us in the same category where we're not. We're definitely a platform that can do all those things, but those are features of ours, not necessarily our entire company. So it's that the abyss is it's education, really. When we go into a sales meeting or talk to an analyst or go to a convention or a market show, rather than selling our product first or putting it out in front of them, we have to actually explain to people what it is and why they need it. Because the market that we can touch, although it's based in e-commerce, which everybody kind of knows now, it does so much more in the social atmosphere. It does so much around incentivizing and activating networks around products and companies that people just don't really understand it to the degree where you have to show them how it works first, educate them on why they need it, and then the product becomes very attractive. So I would say, abyss-wise, that would be the biggest.